John Lough is going to speak to us now, though. He's an Associate Fellow, Russia and Eurasia Programme at Chatham House, because I'm afraid to say that 15 months after Evan Gershkovich was arrested and locked away in a Moscow jail on what we can only sort of describe as trumped-up espionage charges, his trial officially is only just now about to get underway. John, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks very much for joining us. I mean, it's hard to believe, really, that 15 months have passed since Evan Gershkovich, our friend and colleague here at the Wall Street Journal, has been sort of unlawfully taken off the streets and locked up. And 15 months later, finally, the trial actually begins.
Yeah, Evan Gershkovich has been taken hostage in Russia, and it seems that the Russian authorities are trying to put pressure on the US to enter into some sort of trade. And we expect that this trial that's being held by closed doors could last possibly several months. And in theory, he could face a jail sentence of up to 20 years.
Right. And the acquittal rate in these kinds of situations is something like 1%. So, I mean, there's not really great hopes that the trial, if it sort of goes to its end, is going to result in anything other than him being found guilty.
No, he is going to receive a conviction, and I would expect at that point that the sort of diplomatic channels will kick into gear. The Russians, and it's a very interesting question, why are the Russians doing this? And it seems that they want to try to secure the release of an individual in Germany, a former KGB officer who in broad daylight in 2019 carried out the murder of a former Chechen military commander. And this individual, his name is Vadim Krasikov. He is in a German jail. He's received a life sentence. And this is, in diplomatic terms, very complicated because the Germans would have to agree to allow him to be released. And as far as we know, the negotiations have not made any sort of progress. There was even a notion that he might be exchanged for somebody called Alexei Navalny, a political opponent of Vladimir Putin, who died very recently in a Russian jail.
Right.
There was speculation about that, but those negotiations, as far as I know, never really got off the ground.
And what is the alleged case against Evan exactly? He was arrested in a steakhouse, I think, when he was in that part of Russia, minding his own business. He was working as a journalist. What do they say that he's supposed to have done?
Well, they claimed that he was collecting secret data about a tank factory in the Ural city of Yekaterinburg, where he's currently on trial, and that he was doing this on the instructions of the CIA, which are on the face of it absolutely preposterous charges. Yeah. But, the Russian system being what it is, and the Russian legal system in particular, where investigators have this extraordinary power, anybody can face any sort of crazy charge. And this is the first case since 1986 when a US journalist has been detained or just carrying out their job. Yes. Now, I think it's important to say that the Wall Street Journal and Gershkovich himself were taking a certain risk after the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine against Ukraine in February 2022. The environment within Russia itself has become extraordinarily repressive. Yeah. And maybe the Russians were just looking for an opportunity like this. Evan Gershkovich was not, as I understand it, based full-time anymore in Russia. He was visiting. Yeah. But this is a dangerous environment, and unfortunately, he's fallen foul of it.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so, in terms of what anybody else could do for trying to get him freed, obviously, the Wall Street Journal and News as a corporation are doing everything that they can. But as you say, it's complicated because it's not clear that he was taken with the specific idea of getting somebody else released. He was just taken, wasn't he?
Yeah, I believe that is the case. And the Russians are holding somebody else who was convicted also on some sort of espionage charge. He's a former US Marine who I believe received a 16-year sentence. His name is Paul Whelan, and he's been in detention already for some years. Right. So there was a speculation that they already had a hostage, so why take another one? But I think in Evan Gershkovich's case, what is possibly encouraging is that a couple of months ago, or maybe it was back in February, I think, that Putin, when he gave a long interview to a US journalist called Tucker Carlson, he seemed to suggest that they were going to enter into negotiations about the release of Gershkovich. But typically, this only happens in Russia once the individual has been convicted. And last year, they freed a US basketball player, a woman.
Yes, I remember, yeah.
Who had entered the country and had some, I don't know, cannabis medication of some kind.
Yeah.
And it was a chance to put her in jail. And they then exchanged her for a Russian arms dealer who'd received a long sentence in the US. So this is unfortunately how it works. And whether it really is this individual that the Russians are after in the German jail, I can't say that 100%. I don't think that's been put on the record. But they want something, and they are, simply not against taking people hostage.
Yeah. And will Evan have any kind of defence at all in terms of, a lawyer that will help him, or will it all just be a very open and shut case?
Oh, he'll have a lawyer, and they will present a defence. But this is done in a very sort of formalistic way, and the judge will possibly have already written part of that ruling. At least, they are going to receive an instruction about what to do. So you can't describe this in any way as, a system rooted in rule of law.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
The outcome is predetermined, very sadly.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we can only hope that something gets done and we can see the return of Evan at some point over the next few weeks and hopefully not months. John Lough, thank you very much indeed. Associate Fellow at the Russia and Eurasia Programme at Chatham House there. Evan Gershkovich, of course, a colleague of ours here, works at the Wall Street Journal, which is in this building, although it's a US-based paper. They have a European edition as well. Evan described by his friends and his colleagues as a great guy. Certainly not a spy, certainly not working for the CIA, but his trial gets underway today, and we can say, without fear or favour, that we stand obviously with Evan. I hope that he comes back home soon.